Now, you mentioned the study already,
Mhm.
and for those who are watching, we just want to mention this trigger warning that these are real life emotions, feelings, and experiences shared by dispatchers. This is their story. So we're gonna jump into this, and of course, if you can, mention, the whole purpose of this study.
The purpose was it really stemmed from my own experience in the
Mhm.
radio room. So I was struggling with this a lot, but I didn't know what it was because we never talked about it. We had 1 hour a year of mental health training, and that was it. So when I had the opportunity to do this study, I knew that I wanted to focus on compassion fatigue because it's not talked about. And compassion fatigue is symptoms are exactly the same as post traumatic stress, except for the way we get traumatized.
Mhm.
So the goal for me was not really to focus on the symptoms itself of compassion fatigue, because we can Google that. You know, what was important to me was I wanted to know the experiences of the dispatchers. I wanted them to share the impacts on their impact on their career, their personal lives, and does it impact the callers and the field units that we work with? So that was my purpose.
Man, and that's a big thing that I think a lot of people don't know about, and a lot of people don't. Not just those in the public that they don't know about, but those of us in the center taking these
Mhm.
calls and everything that we don't always pay attention to. And maybe we notice symptoms and all, but a lot of times also we think, nah, that's not happening to me. We're sometimes we're in denial, right? But
Yes.
when they get, and especially if they get pointed out, sometimes we feel attacked, and that is not just in dispatch. That can be in any profession.
Mhm.
But especially with this, I'm glad that you did this study and you went through it, and that others are going to be able to see this in the results, because again, sometimes we just don't know, we don't see it, or of course we're in that denial mode, and then when it hits
Yeah.
us, when it ends up hitting us, you think, damn, I was going through this. So this is good that we're gonna get a chance to go through this. So these are some of the stressors, right? These are some of the stressors that you were kind of focusing on. Is that right? Or
Right. These are some of the stressors that I could think of
Mhm.
that when I was a dispatcher, this is what we would go through every day. And this is what I found that is missing in the literature as well. Most people do not know of all of the stressors that dispatchers go through. We have the cell phone usage with GPS that doesn't work like TV, those kind of things. We have language barriers where we don't really want to use a language line or don't trust the language line. We get cussed at regularly, and it's just supposed to roll off our back, right? But sometimes it kind of sinks in there.
Yeah.
Our physical environment, it's like, oh, I get so jealous when you talk about radio rooms with windows and, carpet on the walls and it's dark. And we usually have the last of everything. Everybody else in the department would get the newer, nicer things, and dispatch sort of gets leftovers or hand me downs. Staffing shortages are huge. 12-hour shifts can be ordered up to 16 days off canceled. And it was bad before the pandemic, but it's gotten a little bit worse since after that. And shift work. I mean, I remember having to drive to work in the middle of a hurricane. Well, all you're trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my child? I can't leave him home alone in a hurricane. So all of these things just sort of create these stressors that most people have no idea. We don't get the closure. We can't make mistakes. Then and what we do really does have an impact on police encounters with the citizens
Mhm.
and increases liability. Not to mention physical. We gain weight in the beginning because we sit all day. We can't get up. We have issues with blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes. all of these things are just compounded.
Oh man, yeah, this is a an interesting way to put it in my head. Just a
Yeah.
casserole of stressors. Just everything is thrown in, and I just really quick. I never really thought about the the idea of the physical environment.
Uh-huh.
I know that I've when I was in dispatch, thinking about it now, it makes me chuckle a little bit because it's so true. And it's going to different places for training or whichever. And you've got people from all over the state, at least for me during this times in Michigan. And I remember mentioning, oh yeah, the dispatch center that I'm in, we have these huge windows looking out into this, forest-like area with overseeing an all-sport lake, and I would have people just kinda staring at me. I'm like, "Oh, did I say something wrong?" And they would say, "We're in a basement with, like, no windows." So
Yep.
then now thinking about it, if I were that person, like, putting myself in their shoes, going back to my center and sitting there and looking around to the carpeted walls, no windows, in a basement thinking, "Man, that dude I talked to, he talked about, seeing the deer, running around or whatever," and it kinda eats at you.
Yeah, it does.
Ah,
Kind of does.
I know,
Or,
now I feel bad.
or if you're on night shift and you take a break and you go outside and your center is not in the greatest neighborhood, nerve
Yeah.
wracking.
Yeah,
Serious.
exactly. And kind of thinking about too, you mentioning the shift work
Mhm.
and you can't leave your child at home because there's a hurricane, having to drive through a hurricane or whichever. Now this isn't exactly the same thing, but also just weather related, I guess, in general. I remember driving to dispatch and in the middle of a blizzard where
Yeah.
cars, like people, we were telling people not to be on the road unless
Yes.
it was an actual emergency, and my ass is on the road, but I'm trying to get to work, right? I'm trying to get to work, and I see this huge truck in a ditch on its side, and the driver, I notice, is on top of it on their phone calling for help. What that truck was actually one of the plow trucks, and
Oh
me
no.
Right, and me freaking out because 'cause I'm in this little four-door sedan with bald tires at the time because I hadn't had the chance to change my tires yet, and I'm thinking, "If that person who's supposed to be making the road better so that I can get to work can't make it, how am I gonna make it?"
Yep. But you
And
were alpha. You had to.
exactly, yes, and I did make it. I made it to work. Oh, man, yeah, it's making me stressed out just thinking about it.
I know.
Uh, so this is good, these are all the stressors and everything that go